Good morning, good day, good evening. My name is Jill, and this is my off-grid series from lessons that I've learned on my first winter in the mountains unplugged. Yikes, it was hard, but I learned so much I wanted to share it with you. February 2021. We've just had a huge disaster in Texas regarding heat and power, and I imagine light for some of those. And I have been struggling to finish this video because it's so important right now. And why I haven't been able to get it done, my video on power, I haven't had enough power. So we're going to do two things. One, I'm going to take a deep breath, calm down. Two, we're going to take a mini break, and then I'm going to add some stuff that is part of this video, but I haven't watched my pre-recorded stuff. It's been over a week, so it may be a little incoherent. There may be some overlap, but wow, is there anything that's more important right now than power and our lack of control over whether we can get it? So deep breath, calming down. I will see you on the other side. So here's the bottom line. I have been wanting to make this power video for a while because, like the rest of you, I'm watching what's going on in Texas, and all I can think about is, oh crap, we have just entered the next level of the war zone. And power is going to be it. It's going to be the battle, because here's what's really important about this. It doesn't have anything to do with grid up, grid down, or my situation. What's so important about power out in the world is it is a metaphor for the power within us and who we're giving that control to. But I'm not going to talk about that today. Today I'm going to talk about the super practical issue of grid up, grid down, and your power. And the short version is I have been leaning on the person who is here. And so I did the video before that you'll see me in a different outfit about what is going on and how I am utilizing power. But I wanted to add a couple things. And one is that I have been super resistant to getting a 12-volt battery and a solar setup. I'm starting to rethink that because it's just more complication, it's more weight, it's more money, it's just heavier and more techie stuff than I want. And so I haven't talked about just a normal 12-volt solar panel RV system like 99% of the people who travel nomadically have, and almost 100% of off-grid people have. And the benefit of being stationary and off-grid with a 12-volt, 24-volt, 18-volt, however you do that, and solar panel situation is, if you want to generate enough watts, the solar panels start to get really, really big. I have a funny story about that, but time is short. So it isn't something that you can travel with and have a lot of solar power. And so the question really becomes, what are you trying to power up? So my personal experience with power that I am sharing with you in this video is what I've been doing and what I had planned to move forward with before this last week. Now that I hear what's going on, I'm a little more concerned with how quickly everything's accelerating and how normal electrical grid power might be going away. It is my favorite. It has always been reliable, but it's something that we don't have control over. So that's just a real thing that's happening. So in terms of 12-volt, 24-volt solar panel battery power, it is a very viable option, and it's really something that people who are on the move or wanting to be off-grid should think about. If you are on-grid and you're in the city or the suburbs, that becomes more complex in terms of rules and regulations. which I'll be talking about that kind of thing in an off-grid life in another video. So it's something you have to do a lot of research in, because basically if you're tied into the grid, you are forced to keep that connection. Most regulated places won't let you disconnect your power source, which goes back to having no control over your energy and your own power. So you can read into that what you would like. So I have been resistant, so I didn't talk about that. Then the second thing I want to add before we launch into the rest of the video that I pre-recorded is that as I said in the first video on heat, power, heat, and lights, they're just so interconnected it's difficult to talk about them separately. But in thinking more about power this week, and what I wanted to add is you're going to have to ask yourself some hard core questions, because most power is for our light. It may be for a heat or cooling source. It may be for refrigeration or food management. But the majority of power is for technology, entertainment, and information gathering. If the grid goes down, if something bad happens, the internet goes down, all that information, entertainment, technology stuff is out the window. And as I said, I'm making these videos because for me, being off-grid is important for my figuring out how to be less domesticated. So this isn't just about, though, what's happening with control and our power grid. The reality is nature's got a big hand in this too, whether it be the sun, the magnetics. There's a lot of things that could just collapse our grid. In America, our grid is extremely fragile. I don't think people understand how fragile it is. And so while games are being played in terms of control right now, nature could wipe it all out in a heartbeat. So there's a lot of practical stuff we need to think about when it comes to power and energy. We need to think about it in terms of safety, and that is heat, and that is food. And light is the other huge one, which is why I'm dedicating a separate video to light, because what I learned, and I will repeat, is sitting in the dark sucks. Not such a big deal in summer, huge deal in wintertime. So this is what I have to say about power. Put your questions below. I think at some point I will run I will do a question and answer on power, heat, and light in a follow-up video, because there's so much to say about it, even though it feels like it's really simple. So if you're freezing right now, I am so sorry, but the best thing about being uncomfortable is it will get you motivated to maybe make some changes where we take our power back. I mean that literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So here we go. This is what I had to say the first time. So I'm going to try to calm down. I tend to talk too fast. Today we're going to talk about power, energy sources, how I got through winter, and things for you to think about. We're doing two things. We're talking about it from a grid up, grid down situation, but we're also talking about it from a wild domestication. Part of my wanting to do this is to get as undomesticated in my physical living as possible. So in any conversation about power, the first thing we have to think about is we are a battery, we have muscles, we generate heat, and we are powerful. So muscle power, physical strength is a huge component to this power conversation, because how you choose to generate your non-physical power is often dependent on your own physical health and well-being. It really is a difference between doing things manually and doing things by pushing a button, or just plugging stuff in. So much easier. So the short version is I've been living in a trailer for almost 10 years. I have been hooked up to electricity. I have not had a 12-volt system. All I have done is use my extension cords to run my tiny trailer and my entire life. I have not had that option here. So this year, the way I have generated power over the winter is, whoops, can you see that? is with this battery power pack. It has it has everything built in. So all I have to do, it has USB, it has 12 volt, it has AC. I can charge it by solar, I can charge it in the car, and I can charge it with a generator, or I can charge it by plugging it into the wall. The thing I hate most about these systems is all the freaking wires to charge everything all the time in multiple different sources. It makes me crazy. But it's what I got to do. Now, what I've learned about power is it's awesome to have electricity. You don't have to think about it. You've got 24/7, 365 access almost all the time. You're never thinking about watts, volts, amps. You're never thinking that your battery is getting discharged too much. You're running out of gas for the generator. It's cloudy outside. All these conversations that we have to have now because I can't plug into the grid. The grid is awesome. I understand why they invented the grid. And I also understand why it's so seductive to be plugged into the grid, because it's so easy. You get what you want, when you want, whenever you want. And what power does is it lets me eat, it lets me boil water, it lets me cook, it keeps me warm, and it runs any kind of appliance or device I need to make my life easier. Isn't that a great thing? Now, in this domestication conversation, probably not. The other thing it's done is it's taken away the natural rhythms of light and dark during the day, hot and cold in terms of the seasons. We've removed, power allows us to remove everything that's external cueing that is telling our body what it needs to be strong and healthy and productive. All the natural cycles and rhythms of our body are tied into the sun and to the seasons. And we take all of that away when we have power. Now, I know you thought I was just going to talk about the different kinds of power, but the reality is as you're making the decisions about what kind of power you want, you also have to think about how much you want to just recreate your domesticated life with 24/7, 365. As much as I want, I never want to think about it, versus how much do I actually need? What can I do to maybe mitigate or manage my power so that I'm getting optimum human function versus, enough of the basics like heating water when it's cold or you want to clean something is a really good thing. And so I came into this with 24/7, 365 power. So I was thinking like everybody's thinking, what do I need to do to recreate what I have? So I got a battery. It's a 288 watt battery with a 500 surge. So it runs everything, it charges everything, but it doesn't, that's like computer, phone, lights, all my little stuff. It doesn't do, anything over, pretty much 200 watts. It will just suck it dry really fast. So I also wanted to get a generator. I got a generator that is a 2,000 watt surge, meaning that's the most you can put into it at one time. It has 1,600 watt continuous run. And the good thing about it, I didn't know what I was buying, but I actually did a good job, is that it's got an economy switch. So it will also scale down. Because I don't have anything I'm charging that's pulling a lot of wattage. And so that means it's a lot less gas. But the generator has a lot of issues. I keep saying it's like a normal. It can't be cold, it can't be too hot, can't be too cold, can't be in the weather, can't be in the rain, can't be inside because of the fumes. And so it was kind of a high maintenance item. Now at the end of this winter process, in many ways I like the generator better than the battery. The battery is easier, it's inside, but I'm constantly, every day, how do I charge it, how do I charge it, how do I charge it? I can never get it up to 100% without sneaking next door, not sneaking. I can never get it up to 100% unless I plug it into somebody else's continuous power source. It's really tough in the car or on the generator to get it up to that. It gets to 100% and then there's a trickle charge, a couple hours if it's plugged in. So it's really difficult to get it to 100%, which is important if you want your battery to last a long time. I have to remember to take it in the car. I have to remember to not leave it in the car on when the car is sitting for a long period of time. I have to be careful I don't leave it somewhere, blah, blah, blah. You know, the cold is hard on it. The heat is hard on it. There's a lot of issues with the battery. Other than when it's sitting up here with me, super easy to plug in the phone, the computer, little equipment. So that part I really like. The generator is the second power source that I've used. Now that generator has been great. I was concerned it's a manual pull, so for me long term that's probably not going to be something. I did not put in synthetic oil, so it has a hard start when it's cold, which means I got to let it warm up in the sun before that sucker wants to start. The generators push out a lot of carbon, so you have to be outside, or you have to figure out, which is my next plan, how to vent them outside so you do not kill yourself with carbon monoxide poisoning. I have not gotten a alarm for that. Bad me. But the things I love about it is I can plug everything in and use it. I got it so I could use my power tools. I got it so that if I needed to do something with more energy, it would work. But I did one time try to run the 250 watt crock pot, and it pooped out within an hour. So it wasn't really very good for my cooking stuff. So I haven't done a lot of high wattage stuff with that, even though it says it's 1600 watt continuous. That crock pot was only 250, so I don't know what exactly happened to that. You know, the downside is you have to change the oil, which I haven't learned how to do yet. You do have to go get gas. I just learned recently it's a 4-cycle, which means the gas and the oil are separate. 2-cycle motors means the gas and oil are together. I was looking at getting a smaller generator just to run stuff here. I guess I won't be doing that. So there's still a lot I don't know about it, but what I do know is because I'm in a rural community, there are people who fix small engine stuff. And my thinking is that in a grid down situation, it's going to be much easier to suck gas out of gas tanks. If you have diesel, you could make vegetable oil gas and repair. There's always going to be people who can repair small engines, especially if gas gets expensive. Now, obviously, if the grid did go down, I'm not going to be lugging a 50-pound generator around to deal with things. So there's pros and cons, but it's an excellent thing to have a backup. It's an excellent thing to have to run your stuff without having to worry about depleting the battery. I have not gotten a 100-watt solar panel yet to hook up to my battery, and I haven't installed a 12-volt system yet, primarily due to cost. Secondarily, I still haven't figured out how I want to live in 2 trailers. But the reason I am probably not going to do the 12-volt system until I have a better sense of where I'm going to end up is one of the things I really don't like about this off-grid lifestyle and running all this technology, because almost 90% of the technology I'm running is technology. I mean, the stuff I'm running for power is technology. It's cameras, it's computers, it's phones, it's just all this stuff that Jeremiah Johnson never used. And if the grid goes down, I'm not going to use it. And if the grid goes down, the only power source is going to be the wood stove. And so I have to think about this more before I install a 12-volt system, because I just don't like the complexity. I don't like all the different little gadgets. I don't like having to figure it all out. I like the generator because I can just start it and plug my crap in. What I don't like is I can hear it running, and so I feel a little stressed out on the computer because I'm aware of it in the background. But right now gas is still about $2.50 a gallon, so it's not the end of the world in terms of running it as a power source. Most people who go off-grid have very complex solar and or wind systems. They have huge panel arrays. It makes it much more difficult if you are nomadic or mobile. Stationary power is very different than mobile power, and so that's some of the things I'm taking into consideration. If you're going to be in one place, you can afford to maybe install a complex system. If you're moving around, your 12-volt system is still going to be fairly limited. And, you know, I see people that are decked out with like 65 million solar panels, but these are just questions you have to ask yourself. What is it that you need your power to charge? And how much time and energy and money do you want to put into maintaining it, upgrading the equipment, maintaining the equipment, fixing the equipment, going out and getting what you need to make the equipment run? You know, the conversation around solar is once you get set up, you can kind of turn your brain off and it just runs. But my experience with solar, just a little bit that I have, is there's still a constant conversation is how much you're pulling in from the sun. It's still a constant watt, volt, amp conversation. And I don't really enjoy that conversation, and I don't enjoy all the wires and the stuff. So people who like objects, people who like to tinker, they like all these complex systems. I keep trying to think, how can I do more and need less power? And the two things that are probably the most critical in relationship to power are light and heating water. And if you can come up with non-power solutions to do those two things, that removes a lot of the stress around how much power you need to have. I'm going to talk about getting clean and lighting in a separate video. Are there any other power sources? There's electricity, awesome. There's generators, gas, diesel, solar generators. There's solar panels and batteries. There's also human generated power. Now, I don't have that, but I think if we go grid down, you're going to see more of bicycles that generate power into the batteries. Different, water will generate power. Anything that moves, anything that's combustible, all these ways will generate power. And what I believe will happen, personal belief, people are so creative and so smart, and all these ideas around how to do power and how to make it happen, they're not going to go away if the lights go out. What you're going to see is a lot of super creative people come out of the woodwork and jerry-rig all these amazing power substitutes. And the reality is, as I said, most of our power goes to our entertainment and our technology. And you remove those things, you really don't need that much. And that's something that's a human domestication issue. How much of your day do you need to be entertained? How much of your day are you information gathering? How much of your day are you looking at a screen? We are not physiologically designed to do all that, and yet we're obsessed with buying all the trinkets and toys that will allow us to be technical. And technology is killing us in our domestication, but it's also freeing us. So it's one of those double-edged swords. But it's a really important question when it comes to power. That's the primary way I think we're powering our lives, is our technology and our entertainment and our information gathering. I'm going to talk a little bit about those in separate videos, but just something to think about in this power conversation. So at the end of the day, moving forward, I'm really thinking grid down, because grid up is easy. If I'm grid up and I have access to electricity, I am so there. If it's grid down, I'm not going to be using all my technology anyway, so I don't want to drag all this stuff around. Batteries poop out, equipment breaks. I'm just going to focus on what's easiest, and I would have guessed that as it phases out, I'm just going to continue to let it go. That's my thinking. I invite you to think about yours, but to really focus on what you need power for, how you're going to source it: wood, propane, gas, sunlight, what the cloudy, sunny days are, what you can physically do. Those generators are heavy. You can get electric start, but usually they're more expensive and they're bigger and they're heavier. So there's a lot of things to factor in. Are you alone? How much space are you having to deal with? Are you going to have help? Are you counting on driving? Are you counting on people delivering? Are you counting on people maintaining and fixing? These are all really good questions that you need to factor in to your, what is my best power source, grid up, grid down, or human. So with that, we're going to end this conversation. We're going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to invite you to check out the links below. Once I get the full series complete, I will have a listing of the video playlist. With that, have an awesome day, and I will see you next time.